Rob, every once in a while, I've told you this. Every once in a while, it'll be later in the evening. I've done the show notes, and all of a sudden, my phone, I don't have it here with me. So let's say this remote is a phone. The notifications, bing, bing, bing. And all of a sudden last night, I started getting a whole bunch of messages from people saying, John, did you hear that George Lucas is writing the Cassian Andor show? Can you believe it? And here's an example of one of those messages that I got. This comes to us from Travis Gregg, who wrote in, hi, John. All hail the king. It's being reported that George Lucas himself is writing the upcoming Andor series on Disney+. The story is saying he's written 2 of the episodes. So I guess I have 2 questions. First, how excited are you to have the new Star Wars material written by the creator himself? And second, do you think this opens the door for Lucas to write more in the future, perhaps a movie? And that came to us, this one comes to us from Travis, but that came from a lot of people who were writing in at the time. Now, this, of course, as soon as I started seeing all of these emails coming in, I'm like, well, somebody's writing about this. Somebody on some site somewhere is writing that George Lucas is going to be doing writing for Cassian Andor. And sure enough, there are a number of sites that are running this. We're getting this story running around. Confirmed, Rob. Behold, the most misused word online ever. Nobody seems to understand what the word confirmed means, but confirmed! George Lucas is writing for the new Star Wars series, that of course being the Cassian Andor series. Now, in specifically what they write this, they say the following: in an exciting turn of events, it seems George Lucas will be returning to Star Wars in a meaningful way with Andor, which is a series I'm very much looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Cassian Andor a lot. IMDb has confirmed that the man who created a galaxy far, far away is the writer for 2 episodes of the upcoming streaming show. Okay, so this is something that I've been getting inundated with for the last 14 hours or so. People saying, John, did you hear George Lucas is writing Star Wars? He's writing Andor. He's writing Andor. So what does it mean when you have sites like this and some others reporting that IMDb has confirmed, John? The first thing I thought when I saw people writing IMDb is confirming is this. IMDb is basically Wikipedia. Prior to a movie coming out, there are many people have access to put things on there and whatever, so you can't really take that as reliable. But I did decide to go over and take a look and see what is it being saying. There's no news story on IMDb about, and this is important to understand, there's no story. IMDb is not claiming that George Lucas is writing Andor. So where's all this coming from? This is where this is coming from. If you go to the Andor page on IMDb, it says right here, well, John says right there, George Lucas, first listed writer, right? He's writing it. Well, that's not a lot to get excited about because quite often with writer, that can mean a lot of different things. There can be the story by writer, which is different than the screenwriter. There can be, based on writer can get a writing credit. If something is being based on a previous property, the creator of that previous property can get a written by credit. So here's where we go. Let's now move on from the Andor page and actually go to the George Lucas page. When you go to George Lucas's page, and you get down to him as a writer, you go down, first of all, you see Ahsoka. He's listed as a writer for Ahsoka, Rob. Oh, but it's based on characters created by. He's credited for Rangers of the New Republic, based on characters. A bunch of all these different things, based on Star Wars, created by. And sure enough, we eventually come down to Andor. And then it specifies what his writing credit is, characters. So then it gets specific. In episode 1, he gets credit for characters. In episode 2, he gets credited for characters. All this means, Rob, is that at some point, Mon Mothma shows up because George Lucas was the creator of the Mon Mothma character. All it means is that I know it got a lot of people very excited, Rob, to see these headlines. George Lucas is confirmed. He's writing Cassian Andor. I please, guys, now you know. Now you guys at home have the information. If you see people running around with that and they're getting excited, break it to them gently. but let them know that no, George Lucas is indeed not writing Andor or any of the new Star Wars show. You can put that one to bed. Rob, I mean, the validity of it aside, I mean, what's your first impression when you hear that a George Lucas, is that something we would even want? What do you think about this whole scenario?
Well, first of all, again, I think we should do an experiment on this show and drop a piece of information that we know is patently untrue and see how long it takes to completely wash over the internet, just for fun, and just as an experiment. And we won't tell people when we're going to do it, but we're going to do it and see how it perpetuates. 2, I don't think that it's true. I think if it was true, we would be reading about it again on all the trades, Deadline, Variety, Hollywood Reporter. Those are the places, really the only 3 places you should ever look for confirmation of anything. And I just, like you, I don't see it ever happening. Now, that doesn't mean, George Lucas might have a great idea. And during a TV series, he's like, I've come up with this idea for, it makes sense, Cassian Andor, the beginnings of the rebellion. George Lucas might actually have a story that he's had in his back pocket for 40 plus years that he wanted to tell, but there was no way to tell it. And the Cassian Andor prequel series gives him an opportunity to do so. I could believe that. And maybe we could see it happening at some point, but I don't think it's happening now. And if it was, Disney would be the first people to report on it. They'd be like, release this. How exciting would that be? George Lucas had his long gestating story about an early action of the rebellion is finally going to be told in the Cassian Andor series. That's big news. That's something that Disney Plus would be like, oh my God, look at this. George Lucas returns to Star Wars. Are you kidding me? And the fact that it's not, I'm like, how did you guys get this shattering information first? What, did George Lucas casually drop it at like afternoon tea up in San Francisco and someone overheard it? I mean, it's so silly. Like, this kind of information, you have to understand how the business works. And, I just don't buy it.
Listen, I get why there would be initial excitement. I do. I mean, look, if you just go, if you don't know the inner workings of how IMDb works, and you just land on the Andor page on IMDb, and it says right there, writers, and the first name listed is George Lucas, I can understand that initial reaction and that initial excitement. By the way, Iconic Reaction sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Iconic. I can get that initial reaction, but then all you got to do is just look around a little bit and you see that's not the case. The question is, guys, what do you think about this? Did you see those reports going around? Did you buy into them? Actually, it's a little bit understandable if you did, considering the way it was kind of laid out there. What do you guys think about this whole situation? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.